I'll get to the morals eventually. I want to give it about your use of the words first and your understanding of what a word is, because we always use them. I think we kind of abuse our ability to use words sometimes. I'm going to quote Julian Huxley. He said, operationally, God is beginning to resemble not a ruler, but the last fading smile of a cosmic Cheshire cat. It never quite disappears, but it does, it's still there. You can imagine a Cheshire cat, you can imagine that it's there. So the etymology of the language is important. The word God has mutated into different words. Words you all know: selfhood, being, spelled with a large B, being spelled with a small b, cosmos, logos, science, TV. Science nowadays has created this kind of positivist attitude. It's the only area we're really unhappy with overlap. I think generally the scientific community likes to lead us to truth and beauty, but then it doesn't want us to get back there unless we use the path that they forged, which doesn't really sit too well with me at the time. The word God may not function in this kind of lofty sense, in the controlled sense of the New Testament and such. But one sense of self or selfhood, however tortured, manipulated, liberated or sublimated, is to my mind simply the twisting and turning towards what we allow to be proxy to the dusty, archaic God that the opposition feels so strongly we do not need. The word need is important to discuss as well. It's a good word. Does the opposition not need themselves in order to be themselves? Maybe not, I'm not sure, but I haven't heard a convincing argument against it yet. It's hard to imagine existence without existence. When I speak on existence, surely we need the totality of our thought and emotion and what it amounts to even start talking of morals at all. I don't mind calling this totality God or anything else, but I will not be told that I don't need it. I definitely need it, whatever it may be. We do not need Yahweh or Allah for morality. So maybe you do. But I ask you to find me the authority by which you make any decision on moral orientation and tell me it is not your God. And that you didn't need it to make your decision. You did, The argument of the opposition stinks of that desperate search for autonomy, that kind of wicked need to be right all the time, that only, I'm not going to say assholes, but we all have someone that's irritating because they insist on being right all the time. It doesn't feel right. You use rationalization, but you don't arrive at rationality. It happens regularly. So, duality is your God, I'd suggest, is your God. The knowledge that there is possible knowledge of everything, coupled with an inability to look at any more than a single strand of this at any one given time. That trust in empirical methods, logical positivism, whatever you hold in regard when you engage with your existence. This is your God. That's what we've been talking about the whole time in history. It just looks different. That's all. It's spelled different. You do not need to hold the word God above your head or include it in your footnotes to need it. You can still need it. Do not blame history for breeding terminology you can no longer detach archaic associations from. It's no one's fault. Let's try to get along and find meaning in words rather than constantly trying to destroy meaning in what's been this constant project of human existence. Let us not kill a word simply because the messenger of an image, and that's what a word is. It doesn't become the thing. When you say God, you don't have God. The word God stands in for God in that sentence. In fact, words are more defined by the absence of the thing they talk about than they are by the thing itself being there. That's the purpose of them. You don't need the word horse if the horse is always in the room. You can just point at it. So, morality is not based on what we know of ourselves, but what we suppose of ourselves. And in a world where we cannot look to God of history, the God of history, following it as it mutates into the various ideas it has now, Ayn Rand might be as right as Kant would have, but she was wrong. And this is the nature of power, which is an aspect that no one's really touched upon, as if we all just agree on things or duel them out, and we don't agree on things that people have decided are right because they're powerful people and they have authority to tell us what is right. And we feel it's difficult to go against what they're saying. It's the same as college. You learn things in play school and they put a smiley face on your picture when you do a good job. That smiley face just mutates into a first eventually. It's the same process. That's how, maybe a lecturer can't say you're wrong, but he can fail you. That's it. You ultimately end up getting sucked into the mold of what's right. And we have to make sure we avoid that at all costs if we can, which I don't think we can. So knowledge doesn't equal power, but they're always found together. It's a good way of thinking about it. And working to secure each other. And in the godless postmodern landscape, I ask you, what are surveillance cameras? Other than God making sure you do what you know is right and you didn't need God. We all know the homunculus police officer who tells us not to do things because they are wrong. It's inside you. It's important because in reality there is not enough policing in the world to stop us from doing as we please. There must be something else, and I don't think it's anything other than the gods we create for ourselves if we don't already have one within our religion. We listen to a combination of the God of law and the God in our heads to form these decisions. I'm repeating myself. So I'd suggest that perhaps the God of Christianity or the Abrahamic faiths was a victim of deicide. When we became our own gods, our first divine act was to kill that God. And that's all we've done, is possibly replace him. I consider the vast complexity of the systems we helplessly and quietly find ourselves victim to makes them our God. We cannot remove them. We can talk about it. You can shut down major corporations. You can not eat Nestle, McDonald's. That's bad, but you can't really do that because then Dave, 32, uneducated, loses his job as the cleaner at KFC, and there's an irrational response to it, a rational attempt to make the world a better place. These systems are God because they cannot be replaced. So the systems of economy, technologies, sciences are a kind of a stage 5 cancer global pandemic, and probably more pervasive than any God has ever been in the world before. We aren't getting away from God. In fact, we're just getting more and more entrenched in that type of behavior. I beg to propose